Are we perhaps maybe seeing the beginning of a revival in the beleaguered auto sector? Well, on the face of it, the September numbers are as dismal as ever. Market leader Maruti has seen a fall of 24% in sales as compared to last year. Other car makers follow suit with a drop in numbers pretty much for the 8th consecutive month. But on a closer look, we do see that the market leader is showing a 15% increase in numbers month on month. The same goes for other players as well. Overall, there has been a jump of over 10% when compared to last month. Now, to put this in perspective, these are numbers of what the dealers receive from car manufacturers. It still has to translate into higher sales, but dealers have been going slow on adding new stock so far. So bad annual numbers, improvement month on month. Too early to call this a revival? To give more perspective on this, I'm joined today by Nikun Sanghi, Chairman of ASTC, Gaurav Vangal of IHS Market, and R. Sriram, Resident Editor at Economic Times. Welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us today. Mr. Sanghi, are you ready to bring out the festive cheer and say all is well? Or are you also cautious about what we've just initially seen?
Well, I am cautious, but at the same time I am looking forward to a good festival season because I think the footfalls have been extremely encouraging, the inquiries have been extremely encouraging. I can see an almost four-fold increase in digital inquiries, so those are all good signs. But I would still have a rider because the first 2 days of Navratras have not been as good as we hoped they would be, seeing the footfalls and the inquiries in the showroom. But probably what I look at it as the customer is seeing interest, and somewhere the customer is also getting convinced that probably this is the best time to buy, and hope this cheer does continue throughout the festival season. We have almost a month to go from here.
Gaurav, how do you see the numbers we're seeing today? And I just want to put those numbers out for a little more perspective. At no point are we still in a space to say that there is a revival, but we have seen a month-on-month improvement. Dealers may be stocking more. No guarantee that people will go and buy these cars.
See, in my opinion, no, I don't think this is a revival. We should say it a revival. The reason is a multiple factor I can put forward to you. First of all, this is the start of the festival season, and this is a general trend that when car manufacturers put their cars to car dealers, right? So this is the first point, that this is the beginning of festival season, and there's always an uptick in this kind of scenario. There's always an uptick in this in this period. First thing. The second thing, I would say that on 1 month basis, I would be highly cautious saying this is a revival. We have to wait and watch. If it would have been a closing of the festival season, I would just have considered it. I would not say that this is a revival thing, right? We have to consider it yet. So third thing, that we are going through a transitory phase, and till the time we don't have inventory, we have a zero inventory for the BS4 vehicles, I would not say this is a revival, because market is in a cautious state right now, and there is a fear in the mind of the car manufacturers currently.
Okay, let's get a broader picture, and I want to get Sriram here. Having said that we are seeing month-on-month figures improve, we know that there is a dismal track record when you compare year on year, and this has continued for some time. How do you look at the picture in the auto sector? The reason we picked this up is because we've seen at least a change in pattern to some extent with this month's figures. We're trying to see if there's a bigger part to this story. How do you look at it?
I think, Tamanna, the auto industry is in for a fairly big shakeout. And I don't think the crisis or the problems that they have been experiencing in the last 1 year have disappeared completely. You still have the major negative factors still at play there. There is a cost issue. That cost issue has not gone away as yet. If the GST rates had been cut, then the cost issue would probably have been solved to some extent, but that's not happened. So customers still have the cost problems. Look, the car makers are also giving a lot of discounts and freebies and all that, but we don't think it will last beyond the next 3 months or so. The second issue is the millennial issue, which we have discussed in the past, and that's still playing out. There are of course a lot of factors that are probably preventing people from going out for car ownership, and probably the indications are that the next generation or the younger generation is not so much fixed on ownership as the previous generation is, and those issues haven't been sorted out, and those issues will come into play. I don't think that's it's not an easy problem or an easy issue to resolve, and that will affect car demand and will affect car purchases. And I think and also what we are seeing now is we are focused on the retail sales numbers or the wholesale sale numbers. Let's look at what's really happening to car manufacturers. You had two American companies, two of the biggest companies in the world, actually exiting the market. GM has exited, and today we know that Ford has basically given up ownership and management control to Mahindra and Mahindra.
Yeah.
You have another big German major, Volkswagen, which is struggling. So basically the market is dominated by two Indian players, one South Korean player, and two Japanese players.
Yeah.
I think that clearly shows that not everybody has an appetite for this market, and the shakeout that we saw with GM's exit and now Ford's exit will probably continue. And I don't know what in Maruti Suzuki, which is the market leader, probably has been very, very successful at defending its market share. But going forward, I don't know how successful it will be, given that it's still the largest player and a huge array of cars, and they are probably going to be the hardest hit if the slowdown continues. So it's still early days yet. There is a long way to go, and I think there is a lot more pain before things get better.
Okay, now Nikunj, how do you respond to this? Pinch of caution, a heavy dose of caution actually coming from Gaurav and Sriram. I come to you because dealers have been reporting greater footfalls because there have been heavy discounts, but two-part question. We don't know if these footfalls are going to convert into actual purchases and whether these deep discounts are sustainable at the end of the day.
So I guess I do agree that there is, I would call it, and I think a lot of people have done that as a cautious optimism. But what we are encouraged with is that this will help us in clearing some of our inventories and the inventory build-up that has happened. And probably this is the best time to clear our BS4 inventories and get ready for our BS6 stocks, because if these BS4 inventories do not clear, that is the biggest problem which the dealers will face. And we know the Supreme Court view and we know the government view because of the BS3, BS4 fiasco which happened, and we will not want that to happen. I think the other thing that we need to look at is that while people are talking about the millennials and how they are behaving and not buying cars, there is another side to it. The other side to it is that because of shared mobility, there is a lot of people who would normally not afford cars and who would normally not travel by cars. They are now traveling by cars, and I think their traveling in cars is increasing the car demand. So we are looking at a much better demand from fleet owners, and even if they are not our customers and buying directly from the manufacturers, they are still adding to the industry numbers, and that should portend very well for the entire industry. So I look at shared mobility as a bigger opportunity than as a threat as of now, because more and more people who are not even on two-wheelers are now using cars, and that's a very good thing for the industry.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought out the millennial quote, and Sriram, you must get credit for it because you've been saying it long before the finance minister said it, which became infamous almost. Around that time, everyone's question was, are millennials basically tanking the economy by not buying cars and going through Ola and Uber? But this is an important perspective. Then you will need more fleet. Coming back to the basic question, do you see the bottom of the cycle now, Sriram, now that we know there is no GST relief coming anytime soon, so customers can stop waiting for it? There are new launches, there are deep discounts. If you want to buy, this is a good time. There's no rainbow up ahead.
Yeah, I think we have probably seen the bottom of the cycle. I don't think things are really going to get any worse from here. And also don't forget that there is a rule that stipulates that if you buy a BS4 vehicle before March 2020, you can still use it till the end of the registration, and you really don't have to wait till the launch of the BS6 vehicles, which are going to be a little more expensive. So maybe that, along with the fact that there are discounts there and are going to probably spur a bit of demand. But look, what I'm trying to say is that in 2013-14, the car demand really saw a big slump, and all the major manufacturers are complaining about how there is no demand and how car sales are really tanking. And it picked up in 2014-15 and 15-16. I somehow doubt if you are going to see that kind of a quick recovery now. I think we are probably going to see a situation where things are going to be a lot more stable. Probably the free fall that the car makers have been experiencing, that is going to stop. But whether it is going to be a V-shaped recovery from now and where you're going to see 5 to 10% growth every month, that I'm not so sure whether that will happen. Of course, the discounts will help. Of course, the fact that if you want to replenish your vehicle, if you want to have a new one and you don't want to pay a higher cost for it, it's probably the right time to buy, because after 2020, things are going to be a little more expensive. But there are a lot of other issues. Millennial is one thing that we discussed. We've also talked about household debt. We've also talked about a certain caution among customers, among people about not afraid of taking on more loans. So, it's still early days. There is probably light at the end of the tunnel, but it's probably some way off.
Okay, we can't see it. There is light, but we can't see it yet. Is the broad line coming from Sriram? Yes, Gaurav, you wanted to come in. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to come in on the point that we do not see V kind of recovery, but fortunately, after BS6 implementation, we are looking at the V type of recovery. Maybe if it is not in 2020, in 2020, where we are our own expecting that this is going to be a double-digit growth, which is going to come back to the Indian market. The growth story of India is not over. We are very well on the path of the growth. This is a slight bump in between. We will go back and we will start growing again. One point. The second point, which I just wanted to counter on the Volkswagen and the General Motors and Ford exit, that these things are not been happening overnight. These things were in the plan from last 1.5 years, and there is no relation with the current slowdown on the decisions which has been taken today also. So these things are ongoing processes, and you may find people coming to Indian market, entering Indian market. You may find car manufacturers doing JVs. You may find car manufacturers stopping some of the vehicles and continuing with another kind of vehicle. So these things are ongoing, and this is going to continue for any automotive industry, and specifically for the country like India.
Okay, Sriram, you want to come in on that point, that we are seeing changes which have been in the making? Well, by that token, you can argue that the whole slowdown in the auto space has taken some time to come to this precipice. We've seen it sort of becoming worse over the last 7 to 9 months, but maybe structural changes have been taking place in the industry for a while. Sriram, I'd like you to respond since Gaurav commented on something you said.
Well, structural changes, yeah, that's true. Structural changes have been taking place for some time, and they'll probably continue, which is what I said, that the shakeout is still going to probably happen and probably going to affect more players now. And the Indian market is probably not going to be dominated by, you're probably not going to have 8, 9, 10 players like you used to have, say, 3-4 years ago. It's probably going to be a shorter, they're going to be 5 or 6 players. And they're going to slug it out. And the other point that I want to make is that you still haven't seen the fact that a lot of these, for instance, we talked about shared mobility. But another interesting aspect that is going to play out now is cars through subscription. Now, I think Mahindra & Mahindra has launched already a product where you can take a car for 1 month or up to 12 months, and you can pay some amount and you can use it and then return it. And other guys are also planning to do the same. So it's not just shared mobility, it's also the easy availability of these cars, and the fact that you really don't have to put up a huge amount of capital, you don't have to invest your personal savings in it, and you really don't have to spend 15-20 lakhs in buying a car, but you can, with a nominal amount, enjoy and experience a particular car for a period of time and then return it. All that is going to play out. We don't know how that's going to play out. So while the gentleman on the panel was right in saying that there is probably going to be a bigger demand, coming in from fleet operators, I think the individual customer demand I'm not so sure about how it's going to play out. It's probably going to be there in certain sections of the car market, like for instance the SUVs or the high-end market. But for
Yeah,
basic
on new
cars, I
launches,
think there is
yeah.
still. I think in the urban areas in the big cities, the small cars are probably going out of fashion. I don't think we are going to see the same kind of demand that we saw for small cars maybe 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, perhaps.
So yes, there is a shakeout, and that's what I said. The shakeout is going to continue for some more time. It's not.
No,
It's
and
not
you're
ended.
also seeing you're also seeing product innovation. You've seen a leading car manufacturer, actually launch what they're saying is an SUV in some 3.5 to 4.5 lakh rupee bracket. So unheard of pricing.
Yeah.
Just to bring into perspective, while we're trying to see a glimmer of hope in month-on-month figures for passenger vehicles and two-wheelers as well, mind you. So that's an important part of the whole picture. Not the same situation for commercial vehicles, and that perhaps is a better indicator of the larger pain. Mr. Sanghi, you want to come in on that point? Is that a number that we need to watch now for some time?
We definitely need to, because I think we as dealers are definitely concerned about what is happening to the CV space, because we do not see the excitement there at all. And I think that's long-term pain. And why it's long-term pain is because unless government spending increases on infrastructure, and which doesn't seem to be happening, CVs will not grow. And the axle norm change suddenly increased the capacity, the road carrying capacity by almost 25%. And I think that's where the pain started. And because of that excess capacity which has been created, I think CVs will continue to remain stressed for a much longer time, and this festival might not be a very good festival for the CV space.
Gaurav, you want to come in on the CV part of the picture and why that is a very important space to look at?
No, definitely CV is a very important segment to look at, because as mentioned, Mr. Sanghi has already mentioned that government spendings generally relates with the growth of the CV sector. We have seen in the past that how the government spending has taken over the CV, and how we have seen the double-digit growth coming out of the CV segment. Currently, we all know what state we are going through. And the worry is that CV is a very expensive item, right? It's not like a car which is a 4 or 5 lakh rupees car, and I think there is a threat of inventory level at the CV segment increases multiple times when we compare with it with a car or a two-wheeler.
Absolutely. Well, let's hope that this is the beginning of a revival, but I get the point that we will see a clearer picture maybe by next month. To see if any of this, additional stock at the dealer level has translated into people going out and actually putting down money for cars. There is some data that shows registrations also may have increased, so we can keep our fingers crossed and see if there really is a revival or a light at the end of the tunnel, and is it visible as of now. I want to thank all of you for joining us on the show this evening. That's it for us this evening on the India Development Debate, but do stay tuned. We'll be back here tomorrow. Good night.